Hey guys, Jeff Wiggum doing a Revelation 9 review actually. Again, didn't do the video before it. I'm going to try to get better at that. But what a wild chapter. In 9 we're going to hear about just 2 trumpets. We already heard about 4 trumpets. In 8 we're going to hear 2 trumpets. 2, so that takes us up to 6 of the 7 trumpets. We're going to hear about a bunch of locusts coming out of the bottomless pit, the abyss, today. So buckle up, Buttercup. Let's roll. Number 1, we did a song, "The Power in the Blood," and man, we need it. It's Jesus' blood, right? There might be some power in my blood or your blood, but really it's Jesus' blood that has the ability to save us from our well-deserved consequences in hell. Not only us, all these people. When we read in Revelation and we hear all this bad stuff happening, pain and suffering, let's remember that we can make a difference in somebody's life by sharing the gospel. And we need to. We need to love others enough to do that. So let's move along. It's always about people. Jesus Christ bridging the gap, making the way for us to be reconciled with God. Somebody told us the gospel, it saved us. We can tell somebody else the gospel, it could save them. Because this world, even on the good days, if it looks good and everybody's happy, it's still the devil running this thing. And without Christ, the Bible says, and I believe, that people are going to go to hell. No matter how nice they are. That's hard to imagine. But that's what it says. So let's give them the good news, because nobody has to go to hell. Right? So we're going to jump. We know where it's taking place. Middle East, edge of the Mediterranean. Our story's been written in 95 AD. 90 AD. Some debate the date, but that's about where I am, 90 or so AD. The whole New Testament's written in this little, 60-year window. And before that, the Old Testament, it's a lot older. But we talk about that in class. So I invite everybody to come to a class. We mentioned world population. Again, all these things are happening to a pretty densely populated earth compared to days gone by. Even within just 250 years, in the last 300 years, it's gone from under a billion to 7 billion. So lots of folks on the world now. A few more graphs about that. This is a thing we can walk through, and hopefully it's amazing how much we remember. Going through Revelation. Revelation will never be the same again, because we're going to remember, right? We're going to remember what's written in this book, not just some highlights from a horror film. We got into some more details about the seals, just to remind us. 4 horses, white, red, black, pale, or green or sickly, that last one. Then the martyrs, and then all these signs. The 7th seal, this is where this dude's saying is a rapture. I don't know. But we'll see. The 7 trumpets come after the 7th seal. We did 4 of them. We're going to do 2 today. Right? You can pause on that and read it. We're going to hear about even horses coming out of the abyss. And we talk here about an angel, a king. A bad angel that's a king, that's bound, that's in prison in the abyss, released. Those guys come out of Revelation or Genesis 6:4, but you can also read in Jude. I suspect there are a lot of angels in jail, locked up in the bottomless pit. So we're just going to hop in and go verse by verse. And again, this is a review, preview if you haven't read it. So here we go. Revelation 9:1. And the 5th angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven upon the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. I didn't put any images this chapter. Might as well use the mind. 5th angel sounded, saw a star fall. Stars are angels. In Revelation, clearly here, look at this. Not that there aren't something else that's stars. And I'm not sure what an angel is made up of. I know there's some fire involved. And when we look at stars, we think they're made of fire. But nonetheless, this angel, it says, to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. So this star is coming, and he's got a key. He's been given a key. That means God has given him the key and given him a task to do. So these things aren't just coming. They're coming from God. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit as the smoke of a giant furnace. And the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. Now I wonder if the sun was already darkened. Is it darkened more? But either way, we can imagine this. A bottomless pit with a bunch of smoke coming out of it, and fire and heat. Sounds a little like a volcano. And, yep, all the stuff in the air, smoke in the air, blacks out the sun, and the air's got a problem. Sounds just like a volcano. But the problem is there's stuff down in that volcano. So maybe it's not a volcano, maybe it's just a vent. Verse 3, and there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth. And into them was given power, and the scorpions of the earth have power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. Okay, guess what? These are not helicopters. Okay, I think, well, John didn't know what he was seeing. He talked about helicopters. Well, if you use that approach, you've got to go all the way back through the heavenly thing, and it all becomes somewhat arbitrary. If it's not literal, then there's no reason to think there needs to be a literal throne or a literal God or a literal lamb. Right? These things, John is in his right mind, and he is saying they are locusts. This is a man we can assume knows what a locust looks like. These locusts had power as the scorpions of the earth. So they had a tail we're going to read about. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. Hold the phone. Okay, so these guys are told not to touch the guys that were sealed in chapter 7. Good. Well, how would they damage any tree if all the trees got burned up by trumpet number 1? Because it says only a third of the trees. Okay. Well, what about any green thing? That would mean grass, but all the grass has been burned up. Aha. They should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing. Wait, the grass was already burned up. So now, in the telling of the story, the one thing that is not certain is chronology. When did everything happen? Was the grass burned up and it grew back? Was saying all the grass of the earth was burned up, all being hyperbole? It wasn't all, but most maybe. Those are the questions we have to decide. How are you going to decide it? Not common sense. You got to look to the Bible. But only those men which, okay, so these jokers are hurting people, but not God's people. And to them it was given that they should not kill them, but they should be tormented 5 months, and their torment was the torment of the scorpion when he striketh the man. Is he saying, but with the seal? Nope, because they still hurt him. He didn't kill them. These are all the regular guys. Don't kill the unbelievers, but sting them and they get tormented for 5 months like a poisonous scorpion bite. And in those days shall men seek death and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. All right, that's what it says. We tormented, but not fatal. In fact, they won't be able to die. And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle. And their heads were as it were crowns like gold. On their heads were crowns like gold, and their faces were like the faces of men. Faces of men. On locusts. Maybe the size of horses. Had crowns of gold. Crowns. We'll read about the dragon and other things having crowns and horns. think authority and dominion, stuff like that. So definitely these crowns, which weren't of gold but like gold, they were meant that they had authority of some kind. You remember that white horse, the first rider of the apocalypse? He had a bow and a crown. Right? He had authority. A bow, I believe, was glory, not a bow and arrow, but whatever. So these locusts are locusts, but like horses. War horses. They had crowns on their heads, and their faces like men. And they had the hair of women and the teeth. And their teeth was as the teeth of lions. Good night. It just doesn't stop. It goes on and on. Hair of women. How is that different than men? I guess we're back to the long hair thing. And their teeth were as teeth of lions. That is an ugly, ugly beast. That is most likely demons. Demons. Many believe that demons are the disembodied spirits. That's what the name comes from. The name Rephaim means disembodied spirit. And that's one of these tribes where a lot of people think that demons come from, devils and unclean spirits. They're the disembodied spirits of the giants or Nephilim from Genesis 6 and possibly elsewhere. When you read Genesis 6, you hear that they fooled around with the genealogies, or the genes, rather. These are something. They're real. They have bodies. They're coming out of a physical place onto a physical world. The description doesn't stop. And they had breastplates, as it were breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots, of many horses running to battle. They had wings. It was loud. This is where we get helicopters. Who knows? I say no. I say the way to read this is just as it is. Just as it is. Right here, he uses, and the sound was as, a simile. Right? It was like the sound of, so he's saying it wasn't chariots, but it sounded like it. Well, if we go back, and there came out of the smoke locusts. He didn't say something like locusts. He didn't say it was a chariot, but it was like a locust. It looked like a locust. No, he said locust. If he wanted to use a similar, some kind of comparison, he would have. Like right here, the shapes of locusts were like unto horses. He knew it was a locust and not a horse. Just like he knows it's a locust and not a chariot. Verse 10. And they had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails, and they had power which to hurt men 5 months. We've already heard this. But now we realize these are big, big suckers, not little bitty locust-sized scorpions. These are horse-sized scorpions. And they're just mongrel looking. Face of men, hair of women, teeth of lions. You might say, Jeff, isn't Revelation filled with, metaphors or allegory? This is referring to some of the Roman army or something like that. Well, could be. Right? We know that Pompeii, I think, was the big volcano and all that. I think that was Pompeii and not that city. Well, this would have been written after that. The temple was destroyed in AD 70 in Jerusalem, and everybody scattered. I think it was like AD 79 or something that Pompeii happened. So, maybe he's comparing something like that. Worth thinking about, definitely. But let's not lose the first reading, which is the literal reading that is here. Don't know what that does, but okay. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue he hath his name Apollyon. So guess what? Apollo is one of the main Greek pantheon. That's correct. Greek, all that mythology, Greek, Norse, Roman, whatever, that's probably more like history. And the reality is these are gods. Don't anybody tell you there are no gods, that idols are fake. No, the idol may be wood or gold or silver, but the God it represents, the small g God, the devil it represents, is real. Here's one of them. They're real. Bible tells you they're real. Think twice, because we're in a world of covered up by that stuff. Anyway, now we got the king coming out, and that wraps up. So this king of them, one of these big angels, has been loosened, and he's the king of over these devils. All right, I'm going to wrap it with that, and we'll do the second part of this chapter next. God bless you guys. Study the Word. It is life.